Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of Waxing Off. The gang's all back together here with Nick Frazier, Ryan Raymond, Ken Shantz, and myself, Matt Carrion. If this is your first time joining us, I'd like to let you know that this is a record review podcast. You can go back and find the previous episode on A Handsome Bear at our Facebook page, A Handsome Bear. Go there, like it, follow it, listen. If this is your second time listening to us, I'd like to thank you for being a lifelong fan. The numbers were pretty darn good the first time, and it prompted us to keep going with it. So this is on you. And we're coming at you right now, episode 2. Today, we went to a Gary Railcats game, and we got all liquored up, and then we listened to some punk music. Ryan, would you like to...
No, we did not listen to punk music. We listened to post-hardcore music. Oh, okay.
The air jerks are all around right now.
So
we're a circle of jerks.
Circle jerks.
Wanking motion.
No, okay. So,
Could you imagine that as like a pilot group? The air jerks.
We're gonna do it.
So a little bit of history about this band, Fugazi. Ian MacKaye, one of the members, was a member of the seminal hardcore group from Washington, D.C., Minor Threat. And Minor Threat was very, the drums were, fuck you, we're taking no prisoners, just fast, and the songs were over in a minute. 2 minutes, if they went 2 minutes, people thought that they were, what are you, fucking Pink Floyd? Come on, we are... get this stuff over with. Get these songs over with it in a minute and a half. And that was Minor Threat. And they kind of... When that band broke up, Ian MacKaye was like, okay, so I'm going to find something else that I want to do. But I want to do something that is not... I want to break apart from this scene that I helped create. And everyone's kind of just falling into patterns at this point, because if you listen to early '80s DC hardcore, it follows the patterns. It's fast drums, we're yelling into the mic. I hate this, I hate that, I hate that. Song's done, and that's it. So he got together with a guy, Guy Picciotto. Guy Picciotto. He uses the French pronunciation because he's an asshole. And he was a member of a band called Rites of Spring, which was actually one of the founding bands of what people now call emo, along with Ian MacKaye's second band after Minor Threat, Embrace, which were two very short-lived bands. They both only released one album and then they were done. And it formed the term emo-core, which they both hated, because they were like, whatever, oh, you're hardcore, but you're singing with things about emotion. And they're like, what? Bad Brains weren't emotional, Bad Religion isn't emotional, Minor Threat wasn't emotional. It's a bullshit term, but it kind of stuck. And so you can blame those two bands for emo.
So this is Fugazi's self-titled EP, correct?
Fugazi's self-titled EP. I don't think we ever announced what we were actually doing.
No.
We should go back and edit that in.
Oh, no, we got it now. And now,
what the hell are they doing?
EP is a shorter version of a record. EP stands for extended play, where LP stands for long play.
Both of those things sound like the same thing to me.
And EP actually sounds longer, but
exactly.
Extended is longer than long, but in this case...
Yes, this was released in 1988 on the Discord record label, which was a DIY record label, meaning DIY do-it-yourself. They folded all of the prints themselves. They glued all of the record labels, all of the things that you would get a record in. They glued it, stamped it, mailed it themselves. They
cool.
recorded it themselves.
That's dope.
That was it. Everything was DIY. They did it themselves. And this was Discord record labels, and this was in 1988 rather. And this was kind of Ian MacKaye's and Guy Picciotto's thing, like, hey, we know this hardcore punk thing we created in DC. Let's do something different. Like, I remember at one point, Ian Mackay saying, like, hey, this is gonna be like punk rock, but like with reggae, but not ska. And as I kind of have some notes on this as we get into it track by track, I can kind of say what I mean by that. But that's Fugazi. They were part of that movement, the 1980s DC hardcore movement.
As you can tell, Ryan is very passionate about this, so me, Ken, and Nick are going to do our best to completely tear him apart and rip him to the floor and tell him why this album absolutely blows.
Bring it on, bitches.
Your feet are big.
So, we start off the Fugazi EP with the song Waiting Room.
I thought the first song actually sounded like a System of a Down song, like the guitar riff. I don't know. It's just that was just my first reaction to it.
The distortion on the
Yeah.
first song was dirty as
Yeah.
shit, and I would say it was very systematic. You know what? I'm not the biggest punk fan, but this song, when it opened up, it definitely made my head bob, and I was into it. The beat was good. The power chords were simplistic as shit, but it did what it needed to do for me to get into the song.
The opening of it definitely did. That was the first thing that I noticed is that I'm with these two guys here, Matt and Ken, where I'm not a huge fan of punk, or I don't like punk actually in general.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, it's not punk.
All right.
Post-core metal.
Postpartum depression.
It's fine. Yes.
But to be
Punk
fair
is
though,
fine.
the beginning of it though did lure me in though, and I did actually enjoy the opening of it, and that was about it.
For being for the punk crowd, I would say I'm gonna label them with something. They hate labels, and for a group of people that hate labels, they sure have a lot of extra labels that go into their music.
That's
So
funny.
this is not just punk. This is postpartum depression core.
Metal music.
But to be fair though, the one thing I could say though is that without looking at the back of the label, I had no idea what time frame this was from, and I think that really speaks very well
Yeah.
about the band. Is that this could have been anywhere in the last 30 years, and I had no idea when it actually was. So that's my one really amazing thing I have to say about that. When I found out it was 1988, I was like, that's amazing because.
Oh, yeah, and the thing about this song, the thing that I really got out of it was if you go back and you listen to the opening riff, it's the power chords, like Ian's palm muting the entire time, and like with the drums, and then it pauses.
Yeah. That pause was dope, and it seemed like it was an off-time pause too.
It probably was. And
They
it
were
pauses.
counting to like a 7 count, and
It
then it
was-
came back in. Something odd.
It's a weird pause, and the count to go back in is not something normal, and it makes you wait for the song to kick off, which is like in the name of the song is Waiting Room, which at first it kind of sounds almost like an impatient call to action, like, hey, we're sitting in the waiting room, let's do this, like let's just get out and go there. But actually it's kind of the opposite. Like people are like, no, the lyrical content of the song is more of, we are like, hey, we did that, like let's rush out and go. Like it didn't work, like with Minor Threat and the bands before that.
Sure.
Like let's get our ducks in a row. Let's sit down. Let's get our shit together before we go. And that I think is Waiting Room, but it kind of like like I said, like it. Name of the song is Waiting Room, but they have that. Like, here's the riff, here's the guitars, here's what you're gonna expect, but boom, it stops. And you're like, okay, all right. And I think everyone kind of joked, like, oh.
Was that the song? Was that it?
The very first song, you're like, great first track. Because the pause was long enough for everyone to be like, oh, okay, we're waiting, all right.
And then we kick into the second song, Bulldog Front.
It's sorta cool. You think this shit just dropped right out of the sky? My analysis. It's time to harvest the crust from your eyes. To search and refine. To rage and define ourselves against your line. So sorry, friend, you must resign. You wanna figure it out with the damn, with the damn. You wanna figure it out with the damn, yeah, bold up bold mouth talking not so bold. Now that you're eating your own.
To me, it was I don't want to say this in a negative light, but it was simple, repetitive guitar work. And
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that was actually one of the strengths of it is that it just kept going, and it wasn't the worst thing I've ever heard. And
It was totally different from the first track.
It really was,
And that was cool.
It was like you flipped on a switch, and you can go ahead and see that.
And then another thing I noticed was that it was a brand new singer. And Ryan, can you
Yes.
tell me about that?
They have two singers, and the way that they space these out on the album are they do one after the other, and then when you flip the side, they reverse the process. So it's the first song is Ian Mackay, the second song is Guy Picciotto, then and so on and so on. And then when you flip the side over,
Guy
then you
Picciotto.
have Guy Picciotto. Thank you, Ken. Then Ian, and then it's a Guy song after
Okay.
that.
He's not a fan of karate, obviously.
And now,
No, or French people.
All right. You're missing out, man. French people are awesome, and then wearing
Sorry, all I think of
Geese,
like Guy
Mac,
Ledouche from Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
we were listening to this, and I was like, where are these guys from? And I didn't realize that it was one of the singers from Minor Threat.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
So that just shows what I know about this.
But that was actually kind of his thing when he first started out with this band. He refused to let people advertise that he was the singer from Minor Threat
That's pretty cool, though.
That is kind of cool.
because he's like
Because they already had
didn't want
they
it to
built
think
up the
that this
repertoire.
was Ian's new band.
Yeah.
You know, like he's like, no, we want this to be judged on its own, and that's why I didn't give you guys any of this background
Yeah.
before.
And I was
showed
like,
it to you.
where is this singer from?
Right.
And in my head, just like every other punk band, I think England.
No,
And they're from DC.
DC.
Because the way that punk singers sound to me, and the lyric I kept hearing over and over is, you want to figure it out. It was, you want to figure it out. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
I wrote that down too. Like all punk, I'm totally untrained. I don't listen to a lot of punk, and just I wrote down, why do all punk vocalists sound the same? It's like 'cause they do. To me, they do because I don't listen to a lot of punk, so I wouldn't be able to tell you the differences.
But I literally thought the same thing that Matt did, though, where it's like, I think I was actually mishearing lyrics at the beginning, because I'm not trying to make a joke out of this, but the opening lyrics of the first track we were talking about are, I'm a patient boy. And I heard I'm a pastry boy, and I didn't know what the song was about. And I actually wrote that down because I was very perplexed by the entire thing, and I thought the same thing that these guys did, where it kind of all sounds very similar.
Is there something to do with punk groups and them seeming like they're from England?
I
Is it just
actually
'cause of
don't
the
hear England. I
Clash?
think English punk bands sound like they're from America, rather.
Really?
Yeah, but I think
What
it's a
about
bit-
Green Day?
they
No,
fucking suck. What about them?
Why? It's just like it's this total British accent thing all
Yeah,
the time,
they're
except
terrible.
for Tim Armstrong. Tim Armstrong just sounds like he's been drinking whiskey for 3 days straight,
Well,
and
he
then
has
decided
been,
to hit a
yes.
studio.
No, I ain't gonna bring you anything that's. I ain't gonna bring you Green Day. Come on.
I would hope not.
No.
But it's just it's a common trend where a lot of these punk groups that I have heard
And that's
sound
why
like they're from England.
when we didn't do this time, but we were supposed to go around and announce who we were and what we liked.
It's true.
And I did not say that I liked punk rock because I don't like punk rock. I think punk rock is a dirty word.
What about the
He
Clash?
hates labels.
Is the
no,
Clash punk rock?
The
So you're
Clash is
saying the
punk
Clash,
rock.
but you don't like punk rock?
But I don't like announcing that to people because people hear punk rock and they think shitty Green Day, and I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, that implies that there's good Green Day.
There is Green Day. There is good Green
There
Day.
is, yeah, Dookie's pretty good.
I would say that's
I like Dookie. It
Kerplunk.
doesn't.
Kerplunk is good.
It's okay. Which is funny because the Dookie goes for Kerplunk.
Kerplunk is good.
Anyway, I really like the ending of Bulldog Front a lot. It was extremely distorted, and they put this like feedbacky like sound to it, which makes me believe again seeing them live would be really dope and super passionate. Where they like do the Jimi Hendrix thing, where they hold their guitar up to the amp to get that feedback feel, and they just get really nasty with it.
And later on when we go down the further track list, him and I actually talked about that. Is the fact that there are a lot of things though that they did that actually made it very entertaining for somebody that's an outsider looking in. That I was like, oh okay, I don't like punk music or whatever he wants to call it. And I really enjoyed this aspect of it because that made things really interesting for people that don't necessarily like the genre.
Moving on to the third track, Bad Mouth. That it was outrageously off-key singing.
Oh yeah, and that's fine though. To me, that's part of the ethos of this whole thing is that yes, anyone can do this. You don't have to be a classically trained singer, and it can still be listenable. Like yes, it's off-key, but where you're like, oh fuck this, turn it off. Like would you have turned it off if I just gave it to you?
Absolutely not.
No, okay, yeah. So like yeah, it's off key. It's not classic like music. But yeah, like that to me it's like, hey, you don't have to be super talented to do this. You just have to have the passion to do it and you can make it happen. And that's to me, that's pretty much what Fugazi is to me, is saying, hey, anyone can do this, and why don't you?
Honestly, I didn't think the vocalist sounded very good, but then I thought about it, I'm like, anybody can really do this, which is kind of cool.
Does this define punk? The off-key sound, because a lot of them don't sing at rhythm or at key of what their instruments are doing.
I would say no, it doesn't define it. You should not strive to sound like that.
Is this the only genre that can get away with it?
I think so. Like with maybe not the only. But,
I'd argue against that.
But it's one of them that can get away with it. But you definitely, everyone listening, you should not strive to sound like that. Like try. Practice, get better. Do not try to sound off key and terrible.
I don't think you need to be like operatically trained to be a great singer. One of my favorite bands, Modest Mouse, Isaac Brock, has a terrible voice. It works for what he's doing, but I don't think his voice is very good. David Byrne from the Talking Heads, he certainly isn't going to win any awards for his voice, but he can write a fucking lyric. And he sounds really good for what he's doing.
But that's the beauty of the band, though, is that they go ahead and pick up the faults of the lead singer. Is that when I'm going off this example of David Byrne, though, is that when you hear that, and you hear like any of his songs, the music that plays along with it is funky as all shit, and it goes along with it to the point where you're like, all right, it's gonna pick itself up. I don't give a shit. I want to go ahead and dance to this, and when I'm driving in my car, I don't really care. Same thing with that is that it's like everything else gets and picks up the slack.
I have no problem with the off-key singing. I have it just it's raw, it's emotional, and it pulls me in more so than something that would be if someone fit a wonderful voice into this.
It would not work. I don't think it would work.
No.
It wouldn't at all. No.
No.
This makes me want to go ahead and throw shit at the wall and like throw a beer can at the wall while I listen to it and fight smaller people than me because I can't defend myself.
And it makes me want to make music. The whole like DIY aspect of it.
Right, and that was pretty much their entire.
That backstory
Idea.
definitely was really humbling and made me actually really appreciate the entire album and the effort that somebody did put into that. So.
Yeah.
And then we move on to track 4, which is Burning.
There's something acting on this body. Something goes in when nothing comes out. And someone's acting on this information. But nothing's registered from this location. From this side that I sense that I am in asking, what is it burning in my? What is it burning in my? What is it burning in my eyes? What is it burning in my eyes?
I have a giant fucking problem with this.
Okay, let's hear it.
I felt that the track previous was very bland and didn't give me anything except for a conversation starter for what we're doing here. And I also felt like the track ending and coming into Burning, the 4th track, there was no difference in sound of what was going on. They could have just made it one long song. I don't see the point of having 2 songs that sound exactly the same. That
I
annoyed
mean-
the shit out of me.
I don't think they sounded exactly the same because obviously they had different lead singers.
3 and 4?
Yes.
Did they?
Yes. Like I said, I made a very special note that it went Ian Guy for the first side, and they were 2 completely different songs. Maybe they didn't sound to
The instrumentation melded together for me,
Yes.
leading from the end of 3 into the beginning of 4.
and I think that was intentional.
I'm sure.
Obviously, that it was supposed to go from one to the other, and it was it's like a lot of like what they wanted to do with their live shows is because I don't know if nobody here has seen Fugazi live, including myself, but I have seen footage and documentaries where that is how they do their entire set, is as one long song. They do not create set lists. They don't even plan out what they're going to do ahead of time. They just start playing a song and then they read, like they kind of look at each other and say, hey, all right, and they kind of get the vibe from each other. All right, now we're going to go into this song. Now we're going to go into this song after that, and and they kind of get that vibe. So this is kind of where that, I think, started. And if you really, really want to get into like Fugazi, like that's, you kind of just have to expect that. Like it's, sometimes songs just meld together. They are different songs, but they
And I do like when
They
songs
lead
come
into each
together. It's one of my favorite things when the flow is there. I love not knowing if this is a new song, but it just sounded like the same song again, and that's what bothers me.
I mean, the only thing I actually had to say about that though is that when it goes into like the seamless transition, and I realize now that you mentioned that there are different lead singers, and I acknowledge that. But like when it does come to that, if you are going to go ahead and say, the only negative thing I have to say about this, if you're going to go ahead and stream this from any sort of thing, like say Pandora, you're going to get one part of that and not the other, and you're not going to get the full experience of the album because you don't have the first part of it and then the second.
This was not created to be streamed.
I understand that.
This
yeah.
was
That's why we're doing record reviews
this
and not
was
streaming
created to be
reviews.
listened to as a record or
Yeah.
live.
We could be doing CD reviews, we could be doing album reviews, but we're doing record reviews.
I hear you. But that just saying for the long-term aspect of it, the long-term success of the album is that's the future of it. And we look at like things like, you look at like Tool, for example. If one thing streams into the next, and you get the first part of it and you don't get the second part, you're left there wanting more.
Oh my god, like Parabola 1 and 2?
That's exactly what came to
My
mind.
goodness gracious. Could
That's
you
exactly
imagine
what's in my
listening to
mind.
Parabola 1 and then not listening to
Well,
Parabola
that's the
2
thing,
directly
is that
I
afterwards?
can imagine listening to neither of them and be fine.
Oh my god.
We're going to play you Parabola 1 and 2 later. That's crazy.
But Matt, that's the exact thing that went through my mind when you said that, is that what I have heard that, and it is the most frustrating thing ever, is that I want the other part of that. And when I hear this, I go, if somebody played that to me, I would feel like I was left out. And I'm like,
Sure.
But they were not created
I know.
to be like separated. They were created to be played together on that record or live.
And
Like,
that's
or as
lovely.
a CD. Like you cannot fault the band for not anticipating future media devices. I don't think.
And I do appreciate that they did play these songs back to back, and they didn't have the track number 3 end and have to flip the album
Right.
to track number 4 that sounded the same. That it would be terrible. It'd be like, oh, this whole thing's the same. I like that they melded together a little bit.
I think we're really getting caught up on the melding together, because I think if you listen to the start of track 3 and you listen to the end of track 4, they don't. To me, they don't sound anything alike. But that's also just me. I listen to this stuff more than you guys do.
we're virgin ears, though.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah. I said I didn't write it, so I don't fucking care.
I do like the song. Something I really picked up on that I enjoyed was the lyric, "I wanted a language of my own." And that got me thinking about punk rock in general. That all of these people that are creating this music aren't necessarily... They're not going to win music awards for playing the instruments they're playing.
No, and they don't strive to.
And they do not strive to. And
they don't care.
Because they want to create a language of their own.
If they did, I would almost be offensive to them if someone from that sort of high on...
Unless you're Green Day and you really want the awards.
Fuck Green Day. Stop bringing up Green Day.
But I mean,
Punk rock.
this is a really safe response to that, I feel like. But when someone sets out to go ahead and make art, it's not for every single person. So some people do go ahead and make it, and it is not going ahead to go ahead and make money necessarily. It's not going ahead to appease all the crowds, but they have a demographic that it suits for them. And granted, 25% of this room right now enjoy that.
That would be me.
I think punk rock is outsider art.
It really is. I mean, I don't want to say it's necessarily a hillbilly smashing a bunch of, like porcelain sinks or anything like that, but I mean, it's got its own niche though, and certain people do fall in love with it, and that's one of those things that it can go ahead and make that demographic for.
I'm not saying that outsider art is a bad thing. I'm just saying that it is a different percentile of people that do really, really enjoy it. Ryan.
And that's the other thing too, is it doesn't necessarily want to be mainstream. When
It
it
doesn't at
becomes
all.
mainstream, like Green Day, which you keep bringing the fuck up for some reason, is like that's when they get shunned. Shun you. Shun. No, but like this is stuff you create for your friends and your peers, and this is for us. If you don't like it, fuck you. It's not for you. And that's what this entire EP, I think, here is like, hey, this is... And let me bring up on top of that, this was that in their own community. Like I said, because they were in the hardcore punk rock community, and they had rules. You had to play fast, you had to dress a certain way, you had to sing about certain stuff, and then they decided to do this. We're like, hey, no, we're going to do bass-heavy driven stuff with guitars, like, The guitar, I think, is, if you go back and listen to it again, is the least important part of the thing.
Okay.
Like, the bass is what you should be listening to in this entire album. And that is completely unheard of in 1985 punk rock. Like, a lot of this is contextual. And so that's the argument I'm defending from. But I should be defending it from the Virgin Ears point. So let's hear some more before I punch Ken, because he's looking at me side-eyed.
Oh, I wrote down almost my critique of almost every song. I wrote down like great bass riff, great guitar riff. So I agree with you on the guitar work and the bass.
So I was just curious, though, especially again, we're all outsiders looking in, and when it comes down to, you mentioned the DIY aspect of it. Should that have gotten picked up, and should they have had a long success? Would that have taken away from their success, or
They did not want to.
okay,
Like they put themselves into a position where they never would.
all right,
Like they booked their own shows. Like the band members were their managers and booking agents. They pressed their own vinyl. They like booked their own tours. They sold all their own merch. That was kind of that thing. Like they did not do a single thing they did not want to do. They in the book Our Band Could Be Your Life by Michael Azarad, I suggest everybody reads it because it is amazing. In the Fugazi section, Guy Picciotto does say something about the power of saying no and how amazing it is. Like that, if you pull up to a venue and they have not met your conditions, like their conditions were $5 to get in, all ages, like and no merchandise, things like that. Like they had all these lists of things like, we want this to be as accessible to everyone as possible, and if they don't meet it, we're gone. Like we're not playing the show.
So-
And that's like they never would have gotten picked up. So like yeah, I understand your question, but it's kind of like a non-starter. Like it never would have happened.
So it's the ECW kind of music, though, in the regards that it doesn't have a long shelf life, where it has a destined path, and at that point, it's not going to be able to fund itself anymore, because you can go ahead and keep going, but you're not going to be able to have the capital to keep moving forward.
I think they were able to go as long as they wanted to. Like they called it quits because they wanted to call it quits, not because they couldn't afford to do it anymore. They once you have sort of that once you lower the ticket price, like volume makes up for that, and they would only book shows that they knew that they could fill, and so they would.
They were in charge of the ticket price, not the venue. What a world to live in.
That's what they did, and that's why like when you guys all go home, there's a documentary about this band called Instrument, and just watch it, and you'll kind of gain a new perspective. I didn't want to give you guys any kind of feedback. I wanted to see what you thought beforehand, but yeah, this band is amazing for so many reasons besides the music, which I love and everyone else thought was okay, I think.
You're a long-winded motherfucker on this.
When I'm passionate, yeah.
Track 1 on side B is Give Me the Cure.
I never thought too hard on dying before. I never sucked on the dying. I never licked the side of dying before. And now I'm feeling the dying. You got your hands over your ears. You got your mouth running on. You got your eyes looking for something that can never be found, like a reason. Good God, I don't need a reason. I never thought too hard on dying before. I never thought on the dying.
The second side of the actual album, I actually really enjoyed a lot more, the EP rather. I enjoyed a lot. This one right here I thought had a lot of feelings to different genres, and I kind of got like a nice psychedelic feel from it personally, from the first track off of it. And Give Me the Cure I kind of really enjoyed because, I mean, it more or less could have been played if you use it correctly into a trailer for a movie, and I thought it was really nice I enjoyed actually just sitting down and actually absorbing the lyrics, and that was the first song off the album that I actually was able to go ahead and sit down, pick out the lyrics, and actually absorb. Granted, I was also sitting down with the actual liner notes, but I really enjoyed this one out of everything else on the album. And the same thing with the second song on the album too, or the second side on that side. I really enjoyed too. So that's my 2 cents on those.
I want to know who sings this one.
This is Guy.
This is Guy again.
At this point, he's not playing guitar. Later in the band's life, he does end up playing guitar as well. And so they have Guy and Ian playing guitar. And at this point, Guy was, he kind of just shoehorned his way into the band, so to say. Like, he wanted to be in this band. He didn't know how to do it. And so he told Ian, like, hey, look over at hip hop. Look, they have this guy. Like, I can be like the Flavor Flav of Fugazi. Like, I'll just sing backups. Like, I'll just dance around. Like,
That is on maracas.
Yeah. Like, he didn't know what he was going to do, but he wanted to be involved. And by the time they got around to recording an album, they did do the switching off between lead vocals. But originally, he just kind of was like, hey, I'm going to be this guy who just sings backups, and I'm going to dance around. And he was going to be the Flavor Flav of Fugazi.
Guy's voice on this one was out of control good.
And I think he's definitely the better singer.
It was terrific.
Without a doubt. And he does become more prominent as Fugazi's catalog goes along, which we will get to whether you like it or not.
Grown.
Like a kick to the balls. But no, that actually really was a nice change of pace though. Like I already just touched on it, but out of everything else on that album, the first 4 tracks, that one really was a nice change of pace though. I mean, everything about it though was, I thought it was actually different than the first side altogether, and I sat back and I just actually put my feet up and enjoyed that.
Then the next track was heavy as shit. For a multitude of reasons. I thought the guitar work in this next track was fantastic. It was super heavy.
Why can't I walk down a street? Your suggestion.
The lyric content was fantastic.
Why can't I walk down a street? For your suggestion. Is my body my only trait? In the eyes of men, in the eyes of men. Life is a game. Let me wanna know like a soul.
Brian, you want to talk about this track? Because this is probably the most important track on the E EP.
Ken, it looks like you have something to say. Do you?
Well, if you kind of want to explain the lyrics first, I can get into what I.
Okay, suggestion is a song about a one of the band's friends who had an encounter. I don't know if it went so far as rape, but it could have been something like that. And they wrote a song in solidarity with her, and kind of like saying like, "Hey, kids, guys, like, knock off this patriarchy bullshit. Like, women deserve to be like on the same plane as us." And that was to me like, well, I'll like Ken give his criticism before I give my defense, because it's not fair to give my defense before he speaks.
I just hate the whole white knight feel to it. Like, why are they apologizing for all men? All men are not like that. Whatever. I don't know what exactly happened to the friend or whatever, but not all men do that shit. It's like they're standing up saying, "We're sorry." Like in the South Park episode. Anybody remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, sorry. We're sorry. Well, I don't know. I just didn't like that shit.
To me, that's not what it was at all. It was more of a call to action to, because they were very heavy hitters in the DC punk scene. Like, people listened to them. Like, when they played shows locally, they did not take any of the money. They donated it to causes and things like that, like women's shelters and stuff like that, and like free clinics and things. And this, I think, was less of a white knighting and like, hey, we're sorry. It was a call to action to the other young men who would be listening and like, hey, knock it the fuck off. Like, hey, yeah, we're all guilty. Stop. Like, that's the last line of the song is, we're all guilty. So,
But we're not all guilty.
But I think in that regards, though, is that we might also know somebody that is a fuck up enough that we should be able to go ahead and keep our friends in check, possibly.
yeah.
I don't think that we ever need to feel like it's everybody, because if it's a small group of people, then that's enough. So you kind of gotta stop it if it's happening with anybody. So I thought that was kind of lovely. I'm not a sponge, so I couldn't absorb everything that was going on. I can absorb the first few lyrics, which was like, why can't I walk down a street free of suggestion? Is my body my only trait in the eyes of men? And then like after that, I wasn't zoned out. It was just hard to hear everything as I'm trying to listen to the instrumentation on top of everything else going on. So that's really my 2 cents on that. I need to listen to this song about 6 or 7 more times to get the real feel of it and listen and read the lyrics as I'm listening. I can't really make a strong point on it, but I think it's a very important track.
I did think this song had the best guitar work on the whole album, so I'll give it props for that.
Yeah, for sure. That's one thing I picked up on this one.
Heavy funk feel to it. I thought.
The passion of the bends was amazing.
Oh yeah. Like, even if we'll throw the photos up on Honey Bear or whatever Matt's thing is. But yeah, like, if you just
It's
look
such a
at
hard name to remember.
right,
You're right.
Handsome Bear. Sorry, but if you look at the photos, like you look at Guy Picciotto, like he's standing on his head, like in these photos. Like you can kind of tell the energy these live shows had, and they did things like they played in penitentiaries, like for inmates. Like, I don't know how the hell they got that gig, but we're like, hey, you want to play in a penitentiary for some inmates? And we're like, yeah. Like, you want to play in a high school? Yep, we'll play there. Like, you want to play in some dude's basement? Yeah, it's that kind of...
How did they sustain themselves? I honestly have no idea.
Doesn't make sense.
Because this idea of like, and I don't mean any negativity about it, but if you're going to go ahead and donate money to a good cause, that's phenomenal. But like, you hear about any other band, I know you've got experience in the past dealing with startups and everything like that, and it's just one of those things that it's like, if you're donating money, how do you go ahead and go from venue to venue to venue and just pay the bill for gas?
They did not donate all of their money. Only when they played local DC shows.
Okay.
So only when they played in their hometown would they donate. Otherwise, they toured pretty relentlessly.
And I honestly don't think that's this question. Did they tour across the country then too?
Yes,
Okay, cool.
they toured coast to coast. So
Alright.
like it wasn't like they donated all of the money. Like, obviously you got to eat.
Yeah.
And you got to pay the gas and stuff like that. But they were very, very economical with the way they did it. They didn't take any extra, like, they planned out the exact route they were going to take, that kind of thing. And they, like, called way ahead. Like, they wouldn't stay in hotels or anything like that, or motels. They would just sleep in the van in a parking lot if they had to. So they were very economical about it with the way they did it.
Is it hard to take the perspective of a female coming from a man?
I don't know. I'm not a female.
Do you think there's an issue with that?
There was, I think. And I think this is kind of what Ken was alluding to, was like, you're so high and mighty. It's like, you're gonna tell us what's going on. But I mean, if you look back at what was going on in those times, like there weren't a whole lot of female vocalists in that scene. So today, absolutely, if that song was released today, I would be like, hey, I'd be on board with Ken. Like, this isn't your place to be talking about this. Like, this should be a female singer. But I think when it was released and in the context with which it was released, it's fine.
The last track on this is Blue Man.
I spit it out on the bed, on the dirt. I spit it out. The sun goes up, the time goes out, the trucks roll by the cops in a bar. When children play, pick up stuff. Anything to make them feel less enough. He's alone. His mind is uptown. Wakes up for the ground. They fall over and down. I spit it out.
My strong opinion on this was that it was very, very thrashy, but all around the transitions sucked because it was more of the same thing coming into another song, and it was just boring as shit. Like, I really did. I think that they should have ended with Suggestion because it was such a strong and powerful song. And then we come to Glue Man, which is, to me, just, it fell flat on its face. Glue Man, the order of these songs should have been different. And that's my opinion on this one.
Well, you're gonna go ahead and flip flop them. I totally get that because you're gonna go ahead and fall great on a message. So you're gonna that's a lasting effect on that, and then you can you add something else to that. You're just adding some buffer to go ahead and make you forget about the message that originally it goes there. So I agree with Matt on that point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Switching them would have been great because this last song kind of just ends in chaos and noise.
I think cacophony was the word
I wrote that
down.
chaotic ending. Yeah.
I wrote chaotic ending, and but for punk rock, I think it makes sense.
It does, yeah. But if you
Well,
wanna,
for a
if
lot
you
of things,
wanna,
it makes sense. It doesn't have to be punk rock, but just it's chaos.
I think if you want to get your message across, leave it in the minds of the listeners. I think that would have been the way to do it. Put
It's
Suggestion
equivalent-
last.
It's the equivalent of leaving on a high note.
Yeah.
You're trying to get a point across, you leave on a high note, and then you don't fill anything else in there because your message is going to get diluted by that point.
Oh, I disagree with all three of you. I think
Of course.
100% should have ended the album, just for the reason that it does devolve into such chaos. Considering the subject matter of the song, it's Glue Man is about somebody addicted to drugs. Like, I spent it all in the bag. What the hell do you think he's talking about there? Yeah, the smack bag. Yes, I spent it all in the bag. And it kind of devolves as it goes into somebody who is using drugs. And, like, by the end, it's complete and total chaos for this person. It is just a mess. Nothing makes sense. Nothing sounds good. You don't like it. You're not supposed to like it. This is what being addicted to drugs is like, and they are not happy about it. You should not be happy about it. Nobody should be happy about it, and that's what that song is. This song is getting heat on all of you, and it got the right kind of heat.
But I feel like if you switch the two messages, I mean, you can go ahead and have the Blue Man message where it's you said they're a straight edge group, so I'm guessing they're very against drugs and all that, which is fine and dandy for them. But if you go ahead and do that, you can go ahead and have your message, your after school PSA about that, and then have the second message, which I think would have a greater effect towards the end and had a more lasting effect on that.
Either way, it makes sense after you described it.
That's the problem, though. After you described it, because listening to Suggestion, I didn't need anyone to describe it for me. I had a really strong feeling was going on. Glue Man, and maybe it was the singer, maybe it was the way it was represented.
That was a Gee song, by the way.
I didn't get it as I was listening to it. Suggestion I did. So they failed to hit the mark on what the subject matter was for me. For a first-time listener.
For a first
Yeah,
time listener,
I
I
mean,
get you that. Yeah.
Going back now, looking at the lyrics, I spent it all in the bag. Like, what the hell else is that going to mean?
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah. All of this has the caveat of a first time listen through. But like,
Yeah.
if you sit down with it by yourself and read it as it's happening, a lot of it makes sense. And I kind of have an advantage over y'all about that. So, but no, I personally, when it comes to just musically, I wouldn't have ended it with a suggestion. The way the song and the track just devolves and just falls completely apart. I think that's the way to do it. And
But you
maybe-
could have had the track of Suggestion fall apart the same way as Glue Man because all of punk rock sounds exactly the same.
You are 100% wrong about that. Because the song Falling Apart with Glue Man makes sense because it is about drug addiction.
I'm just shooting you into work, bud.
I know you are. You're working me into a shoot on one of these other.
Ratings. I think it'd be funny to start with you, Ryan. Rate the CP.
What are we at? 0 to 5?
0 to 5 records.
Can I go negative?
Yes.
I absolutely won't. But I'll give this one a solid 3.5. This is one of my favorite bands ever, and it's really cool to see where they come from, but they're not there yet. And yeah, I know I was being a little dicky and like arguing with you guys just to be arguing with you, but
As you do.
yeah, as I do, you know. But they're absolutely not there yet. Like the stuff I'm gonna introduce you guys to later will be way better than this. I promise. You'll get more out of it. But it's important to me that was the first, and I like it. But that's, like I said, I can only give it like a 3.5 out of 5. It's good. It ain't there yet.
I'm more than willing to go ahead and listen to more of them. The first side of the album I was not incredibly happy with. It wasn't anything I would listen to. Second half of it, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed. I'm sorry, what was track 5?
Give Me the Cure.
Give Me the Cure. I really enjoyed that. That was the first track off of that side. I really enjoyed it. I'd say I really enjoyed Suggestion. I really enjoyed it going into that. And then, even the end, I'll go ahead and say after the explanation, I started getting a better appreciation for it. And that's huge. With that being told, when somebody has to explain something to you, it's not necessarily the strongest suit for the album.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm going to. This is the first punk record I've listened to in full, other than like the Clash or Green Day record. Sorry to bring up Green Day again.
It's the DJ equivalent of the second episode.
But to me, this
DJ Green Day is that guy's name from now on.
to me this just sounds like generic punk music to me. I don't know. Maybe I just need to listen to more. I'm open to listening to more, but this just sounds like any other punk music that I've listened to. I did really enjoy the guitar work and the bass work. I thought there were some really good riffs in there. But yeah, I just give it a 2.
For me, I agree with a lot of Nick's points. I like that. I liked it a lot more after you explained it as we've been going along. I needed that, and I would probably listen to it again to hear what you have explained and really take it into my own heart. I thought the vocalizations were really subpar. There was like 1 or 2 tracks that I really liked the vocals on, but that's about it. The guitar work all kind of melded into each other, so I really didn't get anything out of that. Bass work, I don't even know if it was present for me, to tell you the truth. But really, the meaning behind everything is pretty fucking sweet, and it being their first recorded album, and they're going somewhere after that is cool. Yeah, so a solid 3. I would listen to it again.
Get to the rest.
Yeah,
And it gets better.
This week we're gonna end this episode with not the 4 worst bands we could think of off the top of their heads, but we're going to give you some of our 4 favorite bands off the top of our head, and we're each going to pick the worst band and say why that band sucks to us personally. So into the hopper we throw some names. I will go ahead and start off with throwing one of my favorite bands in there, Modest Mouse.
Throw Radiohead in there.
Absolutely tops for me. I'm gonna say Dillinger 4.
I'll go Godspeed. Godspeed, you Black Emperor.
I think we all know who everyone's gonna gang up on here.
No, actually, strange enough, I really hate Radiohead. I hate Radiohead. I feel it insists upon itself.
Why? Because they keep reinventing themselves.
No, because it's just really boring. I think the cult following of it is pretty shitty. I think their fans are really pretentious, and that hurts the music. I really like Tom York's voice a lot, but the rest of the band really falls flat for me too.
Is it his weird eye? You can tell
It
us.
might be in his weird dancing moves.
Yeah, he's got flawless dancing moves.
His dancing moves are great. Don't discount that.
He moves like Jackie Gleason.
For me, I just it doesn't hit home with me at all.
The one interesting thing I feel like with them is that they've got 2 chapters to their book. They've got the first half of their career, and then they've got everything past 2006, which is in rainbows and on. And I feel like
Is that who you're picking?
I'm gonna make you assholes listen to the moon-shaped pool.
yeah.
This is the point, to hurt feelings.
Yeah. But no, it's like I enjoyed the first part of their catalog, but I mean, I'll be the first person to tell you that it took me about 6 years to really enjoy.
And until you've been really drunk at a Radiohead concert, you can't really.
Oh, so you're one of those asshole fans.
I
No.
actually carried that out Officer and a Gentleman style from that when he went blind from day drinking. So the band's got a little
was heat
special heart
stroke.
in me. Yes, heat stroke. I still carried you out in both of my arms. So it was really adorable, folks. He actually took my head off of his head and put it on his own. But that's a story for another day.
That's so cute.
It really is.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, he says that now, but it did.
Well,
Wait, did he give an answer?
He just rebutted.
Matt,
Oh, okay.
Matt and Nick named 2 of my other favorite bands, so by default, Ryan's band. I've never heard of them.
So they
That-
must suck.
Well,
They sound anything like that. Which they don't.
what are they? What do they play?
No, you can't say they're terrible if you've never heard them.
The
Well-
screamability.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Because you've heard the other ones, so by default, I would say
You're
They
making
sound
an
nothing
assumption.
like that.
doesn't matter. Just haven't
Oh,
heard
okay.
them. So the
So
silence.
you're wrong. So you're wrong.
Silence is worse than something you enjoy.
Okay. Whatever the hell that means.
To tell the truth, I would rather listen to Silence than some of the shit that I just listened to. So.
Yeah.
Something you enjoy, though. You'd rather listen to silence than something you enjoy?
No, I'd rather listen to Silence than something I don't like. So that right there is what I'm trying to say.
So what's your pick?
Probably Dillinger's Revenge.
Dillinger's Revenge. All right. My answer is whatever Matt didn't say. Both of you, they're tied for the worst ever. No, but seriously though, I fucking hate Radiohead so much. Like, I listen to their stuff, and it's like the most pretentious bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life. And Tom York pisses me off just his entire existence.
More pretentious than you 2?
No.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
certainly not. Certainly not.
Oh,
No.
that's the
But-
next episode. Of
Right,
But,
right.
I've heard, what is that, postmodern jukebox? You know what I'm talking about, where they play songs in, like, different styles. Like, they did a lounge, going back to the previous episode of Portishead, where they played, like, a lounge version of Creep, and it was an amazing song. and Tom York's like, "Ugh, people liked it, I hated it,"
Yeah.
and like nobody would do that with any of his other songs, and not because they couldn't, but because I don't think they want to. Like he's Tom York sucks.
Well, I mean, Tom York hates that song in general. though.
Yeah,
He does.
But to be fair, he does hate that song, but that's also what makes it so pretentious. Because he wrote this hit song that everyone loves, so now
And
he
it's a
doesn't like
great
it.
song. It really
it's,
is.
and
Like,
it's a hit-worthy song, yeah. So,
like I've never been, obviously never been Tom York levels of famous, but I have been in scenes where I
with hair like that.
with hair like this, yeah, baby. But no, I have been in a band where people wanted to hear a song that I hated playing, and I get it, but like he's such a fucking dick about it.
I think all
Like-
bands have that one song that
Definitely.
they regret making.
Right.
I mean, like Alt J, like regrets making Left Hand Free. I don't know why, but
But he's such a dick about it.
true.
But can we start the next episode about you two, and the entire episode is about you two?
Yeah, here we go.
Are you gonna bring
Hello,
me a
everybody.
album?
Right now, we're going to go ahead and do episode 3 about...
You two sucks. End of episode. Bye.
That was a fun episode. That was the shit on Ryan's music episode.
Yeah, I liked it.
That's it. That's the show. Thanks for listening. Why don't you go ahead and go over to Twitter at Waxing Off. Follow us there. Like I said in the beginning of the show, go to Facebook and type in A Handsome Bear. You can find all episodes there. This show is as much your show as it is our show. So get out there on these social media pages and tell us what you want us to review. Fan base interaction is extremely important to us. It lets us know we're doing a really good job. And if we're not, go out there and tell us. Say things that we're doing wrong. We want to make this as good as possible. The radio sucks. You know it. You're sick of it. Pop us on once a month to your drive to work. Enjoy something fresh, even if we suck at what we're doing. We don't know what we're talking about. We're having fun, and you'll have fun listening to us. Thanks again, guys.
There lays no reward in what you discover.
They are not happy about it. You should not be happy about it. Nobody should be happy about it.
You spent yourself, boy, watching me suffer.
I like Dookie.
Suffer your words, suffer your eyes, suffer your hands, suffer your interpretation of what it is, what it is, what it is. To be a man.
This is all getting edited out.
Check
This is
Twitter.
all getting edited out.
Don't Google search handsome bear.
Handsome bear. Images on. Safe search off.